If you speak English and you're learning Spanish, there's one word that causes problems all the time. In English, it's very simple. It's just one word, how. But in Spanish, it doesn't work like that, por desgracia. And depending on the context, it turns into many different structures. So the thing is, if you translate it directly from English to Spanish, you will sound off and very unnatural without knowing why. That's why today I'll show you all the main uses of how, so that you don't sound off in Spanish nunca más. So let's learn the real way that we say it in Spanish. I'm Celso Gil, and I help people who move to Spain feel at home by connecting with locals and speaking Spanish with confidence. Alright, so what happens when in English you say how beautiful it is? In Spanish, you cannot say cuánto bonito es. It doesn't work. So in these cases, in Spanish, you don't say cuánto, you say qué. How beautiful it is, qué bonito es. How big it is, qué grande es. How good it is, qué bueno es. And a quick tip, if you want to emphasize it, si quieres enfatizarlo even more, you can say qué bonito que es, qué grande que es, qué bueno que es. So including that que, it emphasizes even more that sentence. So there are two key structures here. Que plus adjective, que más adjetivo, that is used for explanations or emotional reactions. Qué bonito es este sitio. Qué difícil es este examen. Qué caro es vivir en Madrid. And the second structure, which is used to express a degree or intensity. Here you use lo plus adjetivo plus que. You have no idea how tired I am. No sabes lo cansado que estoy. Let's do the second one together. You have no idea how difficult it is. No sabes lo difícil que es. Let's do one more. I was surprised by how expensive it was. Me sorprendió lo caro que era. So important rule. In Spanish, we never say cuánto with an adjective. You cannot say cuánto bonito, cuánto grande, cuánto caro. So with adjectives, you always use que bonito, que caro, or the structure lo plus the adjective plus que. Lo bonito que es, lo caro que es, and so on. And by the way, I know that this part of the video is the one that most of the people skip, but I want to take an opportunity and thank everyone who is supporting this channel with a donation. And just so you know, your support goes directly into paying for the platforms and memberships that I need to create these lessons. And it helps keep free Spanish lessons available for people who cannot afford another way to learn Spanish. Número dos. In English, you say, look how fast he runs or she runs. How would you say it in Spanish? We use two main structures here. So same way as we have seen before, but in this case, it's not an adjective, it's an adverb. I'll show you the difference. So you use it for exclamations, exclamaciones. Look how fast she runs. Mira qué rápido corre. Remember how to emphasize this sentence? Mira qué rápido que corre. Let's do the next one. Look how fast he speaks. En español, right? Mira qué rápido habla. How would you emphasize that? Mira qué rápido que habla. Perfecto. Mira qué rápido que habla. Mira qué rápido. Mira qué rápido que habla. How late we are arriving. Qué tarde llegamos. So, qué. Again, if you want to say you cannot imagine how well she sings or how well he sings, no te imaginas lo bien que canta. How would you say you have no idea how well he or she cooks? No te imaginas lo bien que cocina. You're getting it? Perfecto. Now, if you want to say, I was surprised by how late he or she arrived. True story. Me sorprendió lo tarde que llegó. Spoiler, never be surprised about this in Spain. You're welcome. De nada. Entonces, importante, en español no se dice cuánto bien, cuánto rápido. Se dice qué bien, qué rápido. O lo bien que, lo rápido que. So cuánto is for quantity. Cuánto, quantity. Not for how fast, well, or badly. Número 3. You have no idea how much it rained. Let's say that in Spanish we do not measure the object, we measure the action itself. That's why we use two main structures here. Número 1, cuánto más verbo. So we use this to talk about the amount of an action without including the emotion. You have no idea how much it rained. No sabes cuánto llovió. Let's see how much it snowed. It snowed? Snowed? Help me with my pronunciation in English. No sabes cuánto nevó. I didn't know how much she or he worked. No sabía cuánto trabajaba. And the second one, la segunda, lo mucho que. Lo mucho que. This one we use it to stress more intensity and we include the emotion. You have no idea how much it really rained. No sabes lo mucho que llovió. You don't know how much I love you. Keep that in mind. Important sentence. No sabes lo mucho que te quiero. I was surprised by how much she changed or he changed. Me sorprendió lo mucho que cambió. So, lo mucho que. Número 4. In English, you say how much water do you drink or how many people came. So in Spanish, cuánto, cuánta, cuántos, cuántas agrees with the noun, not the verb. So if we're talking about personas, it will be cuántas. If we're talking about perros, we say cuántos. How about water? Tricky one. Is water feminine or masculine? It's feminine, but we say el agua. And the reason why we say el agua, even though it's feminine, it's because if we say la agua, it just doesn't sound good. La agua. So to avoid that double A, la agua, we simply change to el agua. But keep in mind, it's always feminine and it will work as a feminine noun. So in this case, what would you say? ¿Cuánto o cuánta agua? Exacto. Cuánta agua. So the rule here is that cuánto always matches with the noun. Now, two supernatural, powerful expressions in Spanish, similar to this one that we have seen. When you want to say how many times this has happened, you say la de veces que ha pasado. La de veces. How many times? We said la de veces. The amount of times that this has happened. La de veces que ha pasado. Also, another one. The amount of people that came. La de gente que vino. La de gente que vino. So in natural Spanish, these structures are used to express more emphasis. It has happened so many times, so many people came. La de veces. La de gente. Número 5. Real struggle here. Every time that my students want to say how often. ¿Cómo se dice how often do you go en español? Cada cuánto vas. So we need to include cada cuánto. Cada cuánto vas. How often do you go? How would you say how often do you eat? Cada cuánto comes. Yo como cada 2 horas, como los bebés. Another way to say it, it's more formal but also easier. You can say con qué frecuencia. ¿Con qué frecuencia comes? ¿Con qué frecuencia vas? So keep that in mind because sometimes when you translate it with the Google Translate, for example, often means a menudo, but you cannot say cuánto a menudo. You can say cada cuánto o con qué frecuencia. But cada cuánto is the one that you're going to hear and use in real Spanish conversations. So think like this. When you want to say in English how often, in Spanish you say how much or with what frequency. Número 6. How long can mean two different things. Duration of a process or duration in time. Let's check them out. So when we say duration of a process, we mean the time that you need to do something. For example, when you want to say how long does it take. En español se dice cuánto se tarda en llegar. So you're not asking about specific period, but about the time that is required. ¿Cuánto se tarda? How long does it take? Now the second one is the duration in time. How long something has been happening. An easy example here is how long have you lived here? ¿Cuánto tiempo llevas viviendo aquí? But also a more natural way to say it in Spanish, you can say ¿desde cuándo vives aquí? Since when? ¿Desde cuándo? Número 7. How far? So a question like how far is it to the beach? You can say it in two ways. You can say ¿a qué distancia está? At what distance is? ¿A qué distancia está la playa? Or you can also say ¿a cuánto está la playa? ¿A cuánto está la playa? How far is to the beach? But never, nunca digas cuánto lejos. How far, cuánto lejos. Sorry, but that doesn't work. Nice try though. The second part, to a limit or extent. So how far can you throw it? It will be more like to where can you throw it? ¿Hasta dónde puedes lanzarlo? Número 8, how as context. In English, there are these sentences that are very difficult to translate to Spanish. For example, you know how sometimes everything goes wrong. How, in this sentence, how do you say how in Spanish? Well, in these sentences, we change the structure completely. That's why it's important to be open-minded and do not stick to a literal translation. So you know how sometimes it will be ya sabes que a veces. You know that sometimes everything goes wrong. Ya sabes que a veces todo va mal. Everything goes wrong. You can also say hay veces que. There are times that hay veces que todo sale mal. So in these cases, in Spanish, we do not translate how. We just set the context. Bueno. Vamos a hacer un test final, un pequeño examen. Sorpresa. Before you go, let's do a final test. Take your time, pause the video when you need it, and translate these sentences into Spanish and try to sound like a real Spanish. Frase número 1. How beautiful this city is. La respuesta, qué bonita es esta ciudad. O qué bonita que es esta ciudad, if you want to emphasize it. Número 2. You have no idea how difficult the exam is. You can say no sabes o no tienes ni idea. No sabes lo difícil que es el examen o no tienes ni idea de lo difícil que es el examen. Número 3. Look how fast he speaks. Mira qué rápido que habla. Y también mira lo rápido que habla. Número 4. I am surprised by how well she cooks. Me sorprende lo bien que cocina. Número 5. How often do you train? ¿Cada cuánto entrenas? Número 6. How long does it take to learn Spanish? ¿Cuánto se tarda en aprender español? Número 7. How far is it to the city center? ¿A cuánto está el centro? Número 8. You know how sometimes he is weird. You can say, ya sabes, you already know, ya sabes que a veces él es raro. Or simply, hay veces, there are times, hay veces que él es raro. If you got most of this right, it means that you are not translating literally from English to Spanish anymore, and you're choosing the right Spanish structure. If you understood it, but you still got some wrong, it means that you just need more practice. So with time, this practice will make your Spanish feel more natural. Remember that the focus here is on real Spanish for real life. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Yo ya.